What makes you think that he'll use the same strategy to get into office next time? Because people are smart. They'll say, you used that.
That's the strategy he used, and he won. So the fact that he may come up with other strategies and other new ideas doesn't mean he abandons this. He has anything new that will come, will come and match it with whatever he did in that time. That is why I'm saying, and I'm foreseeing him going to the villages and using his machineries and his people to do what they did. However, he should be very careful that people do not get exhausted and people do not see those as just empty promises. If at all, he can match those with the deeds, or rather with the promises, the promises he is making. If people can see fruits out of those promises, which I'm seeing going ahead, they might be coming. Because remember, he is going, of course, giving people promises. There will be a dam here, there will be a road there. If those dams, if those roads, there will be water here. Just the other day, just yesterday, whatever they signed with the Indonesian president, you saw like mining, which I'm sure mining we have done very low and very poorly here in Kenya, though we are literally adorned with these resources.
Yes.
If that is opened up, we are talking of more resources. You are talking of education, both at lower level and at higher level. If the education systems, the infrastructure, and everything is opened, you are talking of water, which is a scarce resource. And if it's there, you are talking of irrigation, you are talking of people having money in their pockets. If that is there, then it would mean that is being with the people, he is coming with the goodies. He is coming with what people want. The only danger will be if this will only be empty talks. If these talks are coupled with results or what people can see and people putting something in their pockets, then you can be sure 2027 will be ace for ace to lose.
Daniel, how much of a work does the president have to keep and block, rather lock the hustlers, the bigger chunk of the voters who voted for him, the message that should actually remain constant until 2027? I mean, politics are dynamic.
I mean,
Orogo is also coming up. I don't know which one.
well, there is a baggage when it comes to sustaining the hustler narrative. I mean, you...
Can it go into 2027?
I don't think so. And I'll give my justification as to why I don't think so. And is they slowly abandoning this narrative of hustler narrative. When there was a rating about the performance of this government, you saw, or polls were laid out. And the country all over, from the government, so-called strongholds and the opposition so-called strongholds, there was a unanimous rating of the government's performance. That the government seems not to understand, what was affecting the country. And that poll was run, I think, by Ipsos, probably by the time after the passing of the Finance Act, if we can remember. And there was a dissatisfaction. There was disenchantment from citizens about whether the government is listening to them or not.
Yes.
And hence, one of the dailies ran a publication whether is it the government for hustlers or no. So I see a situation, and let me come back to this issue to be very objective and fair. Just as you've asked the issues about, in the campaign time, the narrative was about dealing with the so-called dynasties that was hell-bent in having Kenya as holding the country to stake.
Yes.
You remember? And therefore the problems of the citizens by that time was associated by the so-called dynasties who had a stronghold in the Kenyan. Resources, political stance, in any other angling. So Kenyans voted in the understanding that the government of the hustler government would, kick out these dynasties and, return Kenya to where it belongs. So after that, I think that has not been. There's been a systematic track and renegation from the agenda. And I would like to quantify. Let's say, as I said, it's very important for us to be objective in this particular platform. And I tend to do so. That, for example, they believe that there will not be any other introduction of subsidy. That the subsidy in maize and in fuel from the previous government was not good for the country. It has been reintroduced by the government. On the assumption that Kenyans are struggling with the fuel levy, and therefore subsidy was a good thing. That is a renegation. It's coming back to what the previous government does. And I need to also be very fair. The issues about the reintroduction of the position of the official opposition in the government and in the National House. This was a proposal that was rejected in the Building Bridges initiative. It has been reintroduced as a point of conversation. And I said, it is good. Because by that time, and I was on this set, Victor, I said, we should have the conversation about the official opposition in this country, because we are letting go of political leaders who have a significant following. We're just throwing them as citizens. Those people will disturb peace and stability in this country because they're out there with a lot of time and a lot of resources. Can we have them contributing in the government affairs, in the National Assembly, by also making sure that government ministers and cabinet secretaries are put to task, so that they also own the baggage of a government that is not accountable. The official opposition is now in government because he or she will be in the parliament. So what, all in all done in sundry, the agenda of a hustler was hell-bent on health, on infrastructure, on agriculture, and digital superhighway. Those are some of the agendas, and you would agree with me, those are some of the agendas of the hustler. So the point is, even as we go to this talk and this conversation, Victor, I hope we could have time to demystify this talk. My point is that we should put Kenyans at the center of the conversation. Why? Because in the history of political conversations, 1992, the constitution-making process, you know, all Dr. Diambo Mbai's making of the constitution. We came here even on the last building bridges. Those have been talks. You understand? Post-election talks, including the failed bipartisan talk. Now we are back on the national talks for a national agenda. That agenda should be all-inclusive. Perhaps what we've been missing and why we've been in this cycle of talk is that we exclude a certain segment of important people. Open this conversation. Whoever is watching us, open this conversation for an all-inclusive dialogue. Young people, trade unionists, everyone needs to be in this talk. Otherwise, we are still going back to come back in the collapse of this talk to make another talk. We are in these talks for another talk. So this is my observation.
Could it be the reason why they've tried to legalize it by going to the Senate and the National Assembly so that they can anchor it in law? I mean, somebody can actually challenge that.
No, whatever that it is, remember even the Building Bridges initiative was as a result of talk. There was a conversation about taking to the parliament for that it becomes, you know, a law in itself. When it's discussed and passed in the parliament, some of those policies that were proposed in the Building Bridges initiative, the conversation, and I see this also falling in the same fate. When the Building Bridges initiative was in the court, there was a very serious question that the judges were asking. The initiators of this conversation. Who are the initiators of this conversation? A very important component that again we risk going back to. Who is initiating this talk? Is it a people-driven? Is it young people? Is it trade unionists? Is it teachers? Who is initiating this? Who are the center of this conversation?
Ireri, before you take... Daniel, you need to be called. I think somebody, whoever is watching, please consider having Daniel at the members of Kenya. Civil society, the religious leaders, the youth pressure groups also, if you ask me, But anyway, not all of us can be at the bombers. Before you take a break, look at it this way. I ask a question. Is the president going to sustain the hustler narrative until 2027? And how much of pressure is it going to be under, having the big four clarion call that he had during his campaign trail. Do you know when he's already gone?
1 year is gone.
We are done.
1 year is gone.
Yes.
The last year, that will be election, campaign mood, everybody will. So we have very, very little time left. That's when I agree. We have very little time left. 1 year is a big time that the government has not yet stabilized, they have not yet settled. My issue is on him going, being felt and or being seen in functions all over, in churches, Thanksgiving and all that. That one, we are likely to see it all through.
Yes.
But the point is, will the crowd move with him?
That is my question.
Will the crowd move with him?
Because there was that euphoria.
Yeah.
During the last
we really
election.
sustain that euphoria, and that's why I'm saying definitely. Even as we talk, the way it was before elections is not how it is today, for sure. Because people expected, nikiweka Bibilia chini, border borders will be having taxis. Nikiweka Bibilia chini, the mama mboga will be
having an electric knife.
Like that. That was the expectations. However, we must all agree that is surely not possible. So the issue is him moving with the crowd is one thing, and him going to the crowd is another. So that's why I said him moving with the crowd will depend on the performance.
Okay, let me take a break.
Yes.
Okay, Daddy, what did you say?
It's Mwathi who gave it a twist and say that, when after the Bible was put down, they expected the borders to have a taxi.
What did you say?
And then they expected Mama Mbogas to have an electric knife. All those kind of conversation and expectations.
We'll be right back with more. Electric knife? No. Welcome back. The time now is 5 minutes past, actually 6 minutes past 8 a.m. If you're still in the house, you can relax a bit and get some bit of some politics. We are serving you politics before you go to work. Okay, so let's come back and close this discussion very quickly, Daniel. And the issue of the hustlers, I want us to finalize on that. But you ask a question of the bipartisan talks, and allow me to delve on that before we get into our issue of our foreign policy. Now, talks team vow to turn deaf ears on anti-dialogue crusade. They have until Friday to go about some of the issues they had there for them to have, the terms of reference and the agenda that they're going to have. They have a timeline they need to beat. Committee terms bombers talk successful so far, and they are satisfied with the progress. That is according to them. Some progress, Ireri?
Yeah. There's definitely some progress, but before coming to that, let us understand why we are in these talks. We are in these talks as a result of some demonstrations which were there by the opposition. If there were no demonstrations, we will not be in these talks right now. So that's why there's some pressure for the nation to stabilize. For these demonstrations, for people to move out of the streets and not go back there again, for issues which for the opposition and for the government to come together so that at least the country can move. And as I was saying, it's not only an interest of Kenya alone, it's an interest of all many other nations. The East, the West, the North, they all want some stability in Kenya. So because of all this, we saw when things were high, we saw eminent persons coming in just to say, Kenya, cool. We are not used to seeing you in this manner. So Definitely, we understand the government may want the status quo to remain, or rather, they may want things to go as they are right now. And this can be given even from their demands. People are not in the streets just because CDF is not in the constitution. Nobody wants, people want to see money, building classes and everything. They don't want to know whether it is in the constitution or not. Nobody was in the street.
Because of the transgender rule?
No. Because of the gender rule.
Yes.
People, there are issues, there are eminent issues. And just like in athletics, where we have the person whom we want to win the gold, and there are others, the pace setters. Some of these debates are pace setters, just to push the others. What am I saying? I'm saying the talks, and we are likely to see and go dead, just because the main demands, which were there, the key issues which are being discussed, we are seeing some progress. That's why the technical team is even being given timelines. They have been given up to Friday to come up with the structure of what is to discuss. And I'm sure I'll be not be astonished when I see some of the issues being given, some of the demands being given high priorities than others. I will not be afraid when you see even others being set aside. Because remember, also we are working within the Constitution.
Yes.
And there are issues. You saw yesterday the medics wanting their issues to be discussed. The other day you saw other people wanting the counties to be increased. Some of these things are way beyond this team. They are even way beyond Parliament, because we must work within the confines of the Constitution, and there are issues we cannot touch, which relates to the Constitution. There are issues which will require referendum. If at all they have to, they have to be discussed.
Yes.
They cannot be discussed in this team. But now it's like we have opened doors for everybody to come and bring issues there. That not being discussed because these people from the sides want other issues included, which are not among the 5-5. But even among these 5-5, we will see some being given high priority. For example, even before we reach there, we are seeing them almost agreeing in some issues. For example, we are seeing the constitution of the IBC. It's an interest of both sides. Okay, the government would have wanted it to go the way they had planned it, but okay, they have already given it out.
Yes.
And said, okay, just come. We are ready to have a formula where we will have an independent embedded IBC. That one the government has already given it out. The leader of the opposition, that is something also has come from the government side. You don't expect opposition from the opposition side.
Gentlemen, did you know that we don't have IBC yet? And there's some constituencies in the country where some by-elections are supposed to happen. We've not had by-elections.
Even
where Mulkomen
exactly
is, we don't have a senator. And so many other.
There's a member of parliament who died in a road accident a few months ago.
IBC is a priority.
And even some wards.
And also remember, by law, between 8 and 12 years, we are supposed to do the boundaries review. That's to be done by the IBC.
Yes.
It was last done in 2012. So it cannot go beyond next year. So that has to be done. And if it is done after 12 years, it can be challenged in a court of law.
Daniel, what are some of these things that are not being said at the bipartisan talks? Probably, the Kenya Kwanza will come with their agenda, 5 of them, or even 10 if they want. Kenya Azimio also, they will have their agenda. But, gentlemen, what is this one thing that is not being said? They said that if you want to listen to what's not being, to get the information, just listen to what is not being said.
What is not being said is that Kenyans are being prepared for a referendum. Okay?
What are you talking about?
Yes. Some of these proposals, there is no any other way. It is in the Constitution. Would you want us to refer there that, for example, you want to restructure the formation and the format of executives? You don't do it through a parliament. That is in the Constitution. There's some of amendment to, Article 260, as you read down, that must pass through the people.
Yes.
And most of the proposals that you've seen, for example, like I said, amending the position of Prime Cabinet Secretary,
yes,
that cannot go through a parliament. Then a parliament cannot approve that. That is restructuring the executive. That is interfering with the formation of executive. It has to pass through the hands of the people. If you are talking about matters of, reconstitution, of course, there are issues about matters of reconstitution of IBC. Victor, and I have been very consistent in this platform and the rest of the platform. I keep on saying, why do we always have an issue about IBC as a conversation on post-electoral periods always? From 1997, from 2007, after the inquiry to the post-election violence, there was a pointer towards IBC. Judge Kriegler mentioned about issues of reforming the institution IBC. There is a very, very clear proposal that was made by the Judge Kriegler on IBC,
yes,
on Electoral Commission. Why do we always have, again, to subject IBC each and every post-election that this institution, is it a time for us as citizens to probably look at the performance and the independence of this institution, IBC, that should be independent, that there should be no political interference? The moment, and I keep saying here again, if there is anyone listening to me, that this is another mistake that we are making, leaving the reconstitution of IBC to the political class.
How should it be done, Daniel?
All right? Because
IBC is a political body.
It shouldn't be. It is.
It is dependent.
The functioning of IBC
are the politicians.
The functioning of IBC is being interfered with politically because the processes of getting people to IBC is a political process.
Okay, so
and that is a problem.
So how should it be
done?
That
is the problem that we have.
Your proposal, how should it be done?
My proposal is that we retain.
Yes.
If we are having a selection panel, for example, the selection panel that was proposed, Victor, there were composition of who is getting to the selection panel. There are members from the Law Society of Kenya. There are members from the Interreligious Council. There are members from, Parliament. And there are members from different reconstitution. If we are selecting this set of people who will select the IBC commissioners, that is where the problem is. Can't we have people who are not being politically interfered with, that would select commissioners who are, apolitical? These are the processes that we have a problem where even the recruitment process is already politicized. And allow me to say this because you've not given me time to expedite. No. My colleague had got
you
plenty
have
of time
around.
You see, that's what I'm saying. There are issues that should be given to bipartisan talk. Victor, if the composition of IBC, I don't think is a matter that should be canvassed by these two political factions. This is a matter that had been legally, a process that was halted, that was legally taking place. There were a selection panel that was already constituted, constitutionally. People who are to select a panel there that was selected constitutionally. Why would we do that? To put it for political expediency. Are we not setting ourselves to more problems? Because what if the president, anything that takes place, there must be precedents. In the 2027 elections, people will be dissatisfied by an election. They will point fingers to IBC again. What will happen? They'll say, we learned from a process that there was a bipartisan talk, there was a national dialogue. This is where the problem was, because there was the selection of those particular commissioners. Again, we need to go back post-2027 to reconstitute IBC. A vicious cycle of always going back to reconstitution talks, bipartisan, by interparliamentary, concerning this IBC. Can we have this settled? And if it was for me, the problem we have in these talks, and I mean, we were throughout the week in Sagana just talking about what are these issues that young people from political parties should be canvassing about that is not pulling extreme into their political angles. Could we have young people who are speaking about issues of national importance? And one of the observations that we made is that in any composition of talks, There's always the who.
Okay.
And then the what will come later.
All right.
So if we are able to put out the what first, because look at what is happening. We already have the what, we already have the who there, the people are there. But now they are disagreeing on what to talk about.
What to talk about. Okay. Let's look at that, at this caricature here. This is the Star newspaper, and gentlemen, you talked about it. It's quite, maybe you can just zoom in, camera. There is this caricature here on the Star newspaper. Let me just get it. There you go. Perfect. It says that there is a blank page, if I can just get it very well. There is a blank page on the left. There's a seat written Azimio. And then on the other side, there's another one written Kenya Kwanza. In front, a blank page, probably. This is a blank page. And on the table is Kenya, put on the table. That's basically what you talked about. What you talked about, Kenya first.
That's what I'm saying. And thank you very much for pointing out. See, there's already a chair, there's already a table. People are there. This is the latest selection, my colleague Mwathi.
True.
That we are having a conversation on national dialogue.
Yes.
Tables are set, seated are very well placed, but there is no agenda. That is the blankness that is there. You see? So we have a conversation and we have a people, and that's why I said, Victor, the problems in this country, the vicious cycles again of dialogue talks, bipartisan talk, interparliamentary, everywhere is talk after the constitution. And when you have this talk, there's always who. You elect who is going there. Now we have who because we are learning from the failed bipartisan talk. There was the team that was led by Muragara. You remember? The other team was led by, on the Azimio side, who the leading the team. You know, Otiende Amolo. The talks failed because, Victor, there was who, people were there, but there was no agenda to talk about. We are taking time and we are wasting time as a country. Country, for example, hold this political class, tell them the issues that they need to talk about. If the issues could have come out fast, probably the composition of the talks could be different. Because if you're talking about IBC, if you're talking about the high cost, no.
It's okay.
If you're talking about the high cost of living,
I want to get his voice as well. You've talked a lot. Let's take a break. Okay, Mwathi. Azimio had the agenda. Daniel said they are all blank pages on both sides. Okay, the technical committee is going to iron out some of the teething issues here and there, but the what was there even before the who.
Exactly. I don't agree that there's nothing to discuss about because these like negotiations. These are negotiations from both sides, from the opposition and the government. And the opposition has already given their demands. The government has also come up with their demands to ensure that there is harmony. So my issue is, as they do all this, let them put Kenya's interest first, and let them not look at Mr. Raila Odinga, because if they do anything looking at Raila, tomorrow Raila will not be there. So if we go and constitute,
is that what you mean by Kenya first?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Because even those who are in government today, tomorrow they may be on the other side. So if they come on the negotiation table, knowing that I'm in government, I can test it up, there's nothing that can be done to me, then we will come, we may not see a good ending of this. Or we may see a result that we may go, next time we will be back on the same issue, trying to redo it, just because we did it with some self-interest.
And personalities in mind.
Personalities. Let us put Ruto aside, let us put Raila aside, and put Kenya on their tip.
But
if that is done,
then he's agreeing with me.
This is the issue. My issue is this.
Gentlemen, much as you really want, you cannot divorce the two from this topic.
The issue is this. All the 10 issues being put on the table. If any of them, if we don't look at how does it benefit Wanjiku, how does it benefit a Kenyan, what is the lifespan of whatever decision that we are making? I agree with him partly. on the issue of like a constitution of IEBC, we had institutions, religious bodies bring a person.
Law Society.
The Law Society of Kenya bring a person. It doesn't. Law Society of Kenya, go to your own looms, go everywhere and bring us a person. Religious organization bring us a person. You see, in that constitution, that means you not ask me, you not ask the religious bodies, why did you bring a bishop so and so?
Yes.
You not ask
because
the
you gave them the
why did
latitude
you
and the
bring
freedom.
And then these people, and that is a structure that will remain and can remain for years because it doesn't have self-interest. But then that was there before. Then what happened? It came up with whoever LSK is bringing is partisan. So it is like entering the bedroom of someone because why are you saying? So my issue is this: we have at least, I mean, not all the 10, but we have very important issues which are to be discussed in this, and we cannot take it lightly. You know, there are those which are untouchable because they require a referendum. I agree.
Assume you don't have, you're on a neutral ground.
Yes.
And you're in between Mheshimiwa Opiyo Wandayi, because Kalonzo Musyoka is away. You're in between Opiyo Wandayi and Kimani Ichung'wah. And then you say, okay, gentlemen, you know what? So blank page on this and blank page on that. Kenya Kwanza.
Yes.
Put Kenya first.
Yes.
Okay. What is this content about Kenya first in this talk? What are some of the things that you really want to be discussed?
The IEBC.
Yes, the things that do not touch, the things that do not touch personalities.
Yes.
Raila Odinga and the president.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
I would prioritize IEBC because after every elections we have had problems.
Yes.
And they all revolve around IEBC. So I would like us to have an IEBC which is watertight, which even if it is you who is running for the elections, you will have trust in it. I would like this team to come out with a clear IBC, which nobody can point their finger at. If we achieve that, we will solve problems for Kenya in years and years to come. That is one. Number two, I would like us to have a very elaborate leader of opposition structure. Remember, not the leader of opposition looking at Raila, but a structure that...
An office.
An office.
Yes.
Not an individual or a personality. An issue that will put the government on check. Because we have seen there before, when there's nobody to check the government, we have seen what happens. Governments do things their own way.
Yes.
And remember, when there is no check, anybody can be corrupt. And that's why the corruption has gone out of our way. Just because for many years we have not had a strong opposition. The opposition has been brought for so many years, we can remember, almost 20 years now. We have not been having a structured opposition. By the opposition, I don't mean only the presidency. Look at even, let it go down. Let them come up with a structure of even checking. Remember, in this country we have 48 governments, 47 county governments, and 1 national government. If we had strong and good, well-structured opposition, we will not have seen Simba Arati meeting thousands of ghost workers in his county. If we had structured opposition, we will not have seen what is happening in Wasinigishu, students being called.
Okay.
So if we can come up with a well-structured, strong opposition system, by the way, that does not mean that the loser comes to the government. That is no. It is a structured opposition system.
So is that what
check the government?
Is that
the voting government?
Is that your definition of put Kenya first? Because I've only picked the constitution of IBC to settle the issues of elections once and for all, and then the official opposition office of the opposition leader and change the constitution. Very good. So IEBC was brought by Azimio. Official opposition office by Kenya Kwanza. 1-1. In football, we say that is a GG.
which I don't agree.
Goal.
I'm still stuck to what I said.
GG, goal.
I'm still stuck to what I said. I don't think
what brings Kenya first? What brings Kenya first?
That would be an issue that it is important, but that is not a priority. The high cost of living in this country. And the high cost of living in this country has to be defined on different models. We are obsessed by the political class always talking about high cost of living in terms of tax issue, in terms of exchange rates and all these things. If I was to advise on putting Kenya first, this is what I would advise. That the Hustler Manifesto, it is important that all Kenyans review that manifesto. And that manifesto should be publicized as much as possible. In a sense that just as the way the government went, and Kenya Kwanza by that time with affiliate parties, went and held the Jumias and meeting people, explaining what they would do if they're elected. It is high time that the government also return back to these halls to explain what has been done to this manifesto.
Okay.
The president is on public records, and I agree with him. Sometimes I agree with my president, always. Because he is a frustrated head of state. That he can articulate a manifesto more than the PS in the ministry that he is appointed to. And then he says, if he knows very much about your ministry, then you should know. Then how would you advise? In other terms, the public servants and civil servants who are tasked with expediting the manifesto of Hustler narrative do not understand it. So if I was asked how I would do this is, could we publicize this manifesto to the citizens? So that any government officials that we interact with would be held to account with regards to this manifesto.
I want to take a break.
Victor, I don't know why when I start talking, there's always an issue about... There was also an issue about cutting me short. When I stand. Mwathi had got a lot of time here.
It's not about this issue. It's about how things done. We have to take a break. Come on. Finalize before you take a break.
No, I had so many points and your take. So for me, is about that, so that we do not have a political talk shows on roadsides. To citizens to begin to be held into first, to know exactly the state of economy, the state of public debt. For example, can we know exactly what we own? Because there have been, a matter of this was settled. I mean, different economists have had a conversation on different media stations saying that of course we've settled our debts. Others are saying we've not settled and there's borrowing. In essence, we are seeing government officials overspending. The Office of the Attorney General. I mean, you can see the vehicles that the CJ, the rest, are moving on with. If in the background of Mamambogas and Mkokoteni pushers struggling with debts. So can we have a conversation about our national public debt? Can we have a conversation about overspending? Can we have a conversation about tax reviews? This is what should be featuring as the first agenda of the conversation.
Can we now take a break?
All right. So I'll come back with some of because you asked me.
Let's take a break.
And I don't know why you fear when I talk about these issues.
It's a break. Daniel, there's nothing I fear. Let's take a break. Oh my goodness. Oh my God.